Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We have a very exciting show today because there's more very exciting legal actions happening in the city of Buffalo regarding big development projects. I know everyone wants to be talking about all the time. We have Terry Robinson in here. Terry, almost everyone knows you because you've lived on Humboldt Parkway and been in Buffalo your whole life, yeah? What is that, about 50 years now?
Okay, but before we do that, let's do this. Good morning. Welcome to the Facebook's audience and also those who listen via WFL Radio. If this is call-in show, we're on 11:30 to 12, right? Want to call in, you can call 716-837-1112 to join the conversation.
So, Terry, you've been around for like, what, 50 years now talking about things like this?
Yeah, about 50, 60, maybe 70 years.
All right. So you just brought a new action in regards to projects in this area. Very briefly, the overview of your recent suit, as I understand it, is that the Article 78 that was just successfully ruled that compelled an EIS is really just the tip of the iceberg in terms of huge development projects that are not fully coordinated with each other, even though they might be in close proximity, to the point of potentially being legally challenged. This is what's happening right now, actually, with the public trust action, CLCPA, that's part of Eastside Parkway's coalition, ongoing suits to compel the right to do the right thing here in Buffalo, and also with your suit. Is that approximately correct?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there, Brett. Basically, my suit is saying that state, local, federal agencies have not acted in coordination with each other on some of these major, these environmental actions. And that's repeated again and again, both on the big ones and the smaller ones, where you need the design of the whole environmental thing is that folks work together, that they coordinate it, that they look at all of the environmental factors in a way. But the environmental factors don't necessarily say that a project is going to happen. I mean, there can be other overriding considerations, financial, public service, but that they have to look at the environmental factors, which are the environmental factors include the historic resources, include the health, include the community development, include the financial aspects.
And so what laws are we actually talking about that would, provide guidance?
The one thing that is the central thing is the State Environmental Quality Review Act that follows from the environmental conservation laws, but they enacted those things in a way that the rules and regulations are all in one place, and that's in 617 of the New York Codes of Rules and Regulations, that the DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, says, okay, here's the rules and regulations that affect every state agency within New York State and that they must follow.
So you were in court on Tuesday, I believe, right?
Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning, arguing these points. Can you tell us what happened there?
It was interesting because sort of unexpectedly, each of the, let me just real briefly, there were state respondents and then there's city respondents. So the state is the Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC, the Department of Transportation because of the Kensington Expressway project, and the DEC, the DOT, Governor Hochul, and then the city respondents, City of Buffalo, Buffalo Sewer Authority because of one of the projects, and then the Buffalo Common Council. So there were three projects One is this brownfield opportunity area, which is the Northland Beltline brownfield area.
There are 3 projects, right? These are 3 projects happening right now.
These are
Correct.
well, we say that they are happening right now. The state claims that the Kensington Expressway project is not happening right now. They say that project is not moving forward. Meanwhile, they've characterized their effort as Queen City Forward. So, and it's still, I think, if you look at the listening sessions, far and away, the largest number of people at those sessions are a combination between the Department of Transportation employees and the Labella consultants. So they're still
and East Side Parkways Coalition and
the
full restoration advocates.
The East Side Parkways Coalition is far and away the majority presence at these things because they've been involved from the start. But outside of East Side Parkways and the associates and the folks that they've brought into the process are the paid consultants. And that tells you that the project, as far as we know, is ongoing, and as far as we know, is still paying people for the project, and as far as we know, that the project is still designated according to that project identification number for the last 15 years. So that the project, notwithstanding what the state has said, is moving forward in their way.
All right, and so then the other projects are
listen. The
BSA
only thing that
projects.
is in common with the other, I won't say the only thing that is in common with the other projects, but one thing that is in common with all 3 of these projects is that they are all located in the same disadvantaged community, that they are all located within the same census tract together, which is a disadvantaged community designated under the Climate Leadership Climate Protection Act, CLIPCA, so that they are within a stone's throw of each other. They all take place there at Sydney, Lark, Humboldt conjunction there, and they all take place on the banks of what is the Scajaquada Creek, sometimes termed the Scajaquada Drain, but there's differences there. So the Scajaquada, the Humboldt Parkway, the Northland Beltline Brownfield area are all in the same place at the same time addressing environmental issues.
Do you have the? I noticed you brought a big book with you. Do you have the line item, quote in there in Seeker that says, "Hey, all these things have to be done in coordination with each other"?
There are Seeker from the outset emphasizes that the purpose of Seeker, the purpose of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, is that the local, state, and federal agencies act together when they're reviewing a project. And there's participating agencies. There's the City of Buffalo. There's the Department of Public Works. There's streets and all of those things that are involved. And all it says is that you talk to each other and you figure out whether there are factors that, for instance, the City Department of Public Works will have a different viewpoint than the City Preservation Board, and they have their different expertise. So you're supposed to look at the historic resources aspect of it. You're supposed to look at the community development aspect of it. You're supposed to look at the air emissions aspect of it. We have a far and away, Brad, you and ESPC has placed as their number one priority the health impacts. My particular outlook on it from Restore the Humboldt Parkway has been a sense of place aspect of it, to look at it over the space of 50 or 60 years and to recognize that health, economic, and social impacts are all intertwined inextricably intertwined, but that people have considerations sometimes that extend beyond it. We're talking about the life of people over, like me, 70 years on this place. And so when we talk about facts and circumstances that can go into it, it's a whole universe of considerations.
Absolutely, and I think we've been advised that we could rightly switch to more of a sense of place. The bottom line is health, but the sense of place and the restoration, we could do that. I got a question for you.
Sure.
So I went on the BSA website last night and went on their FAQs and pulled down the question, are we coordinating with other projects? And on their answer to that is this long. Whereas the answers to the other FAQs are only, like a sentence or two, and they say that as a matter of fact, we are talking to all the other project managers and getting their feedback. So my question is, what did you talk about with the judge? And
well, that's not what.
How did the judge respond?
That's what is interesting is that. Like I said, there were state respondents. They were all represented by the New York State Attorney General's office, and they claim that they were separate, unrelated projects, and they affirmed that they were not in consultation with either the City of Buffalo or amongst themselves, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Environmental Conservation, and the other state. They claim that there was no segmentation of the project because they were all separate projects, and they affirmed that they were not coordinating their consultations on the projects, even though we saw December 30th that there were 37 million gallons of untreated waste released at this particular point, and that the effluent that was going into that was immediately, some of it, coming from the brownfield area where the groundwater and the soil is contaminated. So that would flow into that area. All of these things together are related in a very practical sense. They're related in a geographical sense. As the judge said in his decision, to consider otherwise is irrational and not supported by substantial evidence. And the judge listened and wanted to know what was the relationship between the projects, because the state was saying that they were unrelated. The state was saying that they didn't discuss the projects together. And the judge was trying to wrap her head around that. And the state's lawsuit, the DEC actually sued the Buffalo Sewer Authority in December. And they established that there were certain harms and environmental effects to the population within that disadvantaged community.
Terry, you and I could go on
forever
on this, and I do want to get to what actually happened in court and what are the next steps with you. But Betty Jean, considering we could talk forever, Terry and I, would you like to, jump in?
Yeah,
and,
I just want to
maybe
insert my little 2 cents here. For those who want to call in, like I said, the call-in number is 716-837-1112. You can call in with a question or a comment. And I also want to do 2 announcements. A meeting that the Eastside Parkways Coalition was either be attending or will be hosting. I know that there's one that the DOT is having a town hall listening tour that's going to be held Thursday, January 22nd. And this meeting for community input as they develop the EIS, this meeting will be held at the Cheektowaga Senior Community Center, 3349 Broadway Street in Cheektowaga. And it's going to be January 22nd on a Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. Come in, we're going to feed you. Right, Brad?
Oh, we do that all the time, Betty Jean, based on your sage advice.
Absolutely. And then the second meeting, which I just found out that DOT is going to be having, the listening tour will be April 2nd, same time, and it's going to be held in Mount Olive Baptist Church, 701. No, I take it back. It's going to be held, I think, at Bethesda Church on East Utica and Main Street. That's going to be April 2nd, so there'll be more detail going to be announced later. But it'll be 2 meetings, I know, January 22nd and April 2nd. And please come to find out all you need to know to make sure that we move our community forward. And Donna Wilson Habib from Arizona said, thank you, Queen Betty. You know, she's a member of Eastside Parkways Coalition, and she's vacationing in Arizona.
Well, I'll just pick up on that. So since DOT is scheduling their meetings right at the same time as Eastside Parkways Coalition has been meeting for the last 2 years on the third Thursday, if you want to come to an Eastside Parkways the next Eastside Parkways Coalition meeting will be on Thursday, January 29th at the Delavan Grider Community Center, 877 East Delavan. You can also check us out on Instagram at ESP Coalition and our website, eastsideparkwayscoalition.com. Terry, back to you. What did the judge say, and what's next steps? What's the actual thing that you're requesting of the judge?
It's very interesting because I asked for 3 things. I asked for the court to declare that the city of Buffalo and the New York State was not in compliance with seeker, and I asked the judge to vacate the negative declaration that the state made in regard to that the Buffalo Sewer Authority made in regard to the Sidney Lark project, and that the city of Buffalo made in regard to the Brownfield Opportunities area. They issued negative declarations on both of those projects, so we asked the court to vacate those 2 negative declarations, to declare that those parties were not in compliance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act. And the third and most important thing was that we asked that the court require them to cooperate together in these projects and not to segment the projects in terms of the negative declarations which they entered, which the negative declarations declare that there is an end to the environmental review of the projects. And we said we need to have these projects reviewed in terms of their environmental impacts, and we need all of the parties to talk to each other and do that together. And the judge said that she would not dismiss that complaint at that time for the legal reasons. She may yet dismiss it, but that she would issue a decision in regard to the things that we asked. We also asked in that decision, which is kind of a separate thing, for compensatory and punitive damages under Section 1983 of the federal law that says we were denied our due process and equal protection rights by those defendants acting under color of state law.
So I went on the BSA website last night and noticed there were 2 options on the table. One was a huge tank, a holding tank for the sewage on the Brownfield site, I believe, or you could correct me on that. And the other option was actually to bore a tunnel straight down the middle of Delavan Avenue. And they have both, that would be a lot more vibrations for houses. But if you stay off of that big parcel, then that parcel could also be development land. So there's trade-offs. The kind of a crazy question is, if we were to fully restore Humboldt Parkway, could the big ditch of the current 33, for a lot less money, could it be used for part of that project?
Not only for a lot less money, but immediately. Those are the things that if you talk to each other, and that the Delavan project was only one. There's a Delavan project, there's a Florida Street project, there's the Sidney Lark project. All of those things are designed to address the combined sewer overflow. If they talk to each other and come up with a project that will probably allow you to treat the combined sewer overflow, to restore the viability of the Scajaquada Creek. We're looking to actually daylight the creek from that in that brownfield area from Fillmore to Jefferson as much as possible, not immediately. Well, we mean that the creek was covered over in the 1920s because it was essentially an open sewer. And since that time, we find out that there were other projects, tunnel projects. They call it the Scajaquada Tunnel. There's the Scajaquada Drain. 3 people were killed putting in the Scajaquada Tunnel in 1980 at that particular site at the corner of Sidney and Humboldt. 3 construction workers lost their lives because of the noxious fumes that were involved in the bedrock at the time. So when you say that there's no environmental impact, you're dismissing the fact that there were 3 people killed because of the environmental aspects of it in putting it in. All of these things get into the same mix that they separate, that they misinform people about, and then they ignore. And that the East Side Parkways Coalition has been the tip of the spear in addressing these failures to execute the environmental review of things such as this, such as the Paderewski project. All of these things, I'm telling you, the East Side Parkways Coalition literally has been the tip of the spear in addressing these things and refusing the court to allow or permit them to ignore it.
We've been working hard, Terry. You know,
Man, you've been doing good work too, brother. And I mean, that's why these things are coming to light in a way. And we're saying that the city of Buffalo has been a silent partner in permitting the state to evade their own environmental regulations, and it has a direct impact on the people and their health and their lives and over the space of 40 or 50 years. That's where I say the sense of place, undeniably, where you're in the top 1% of and the lowest life expectancy, when you're in the top 2% of asthma, when you're in the top 5% of cancer-related impacts because of traffic-related automobile pollution, all of these things, those are facts. This is reality, and it's happening right now, and we are the people in the front of changing that and making them accountable so that we can, it's not a question of looking for blame, it's a question of moving forward for the next 40 or 50 years into Buffalo's 3rd century instead of looking backward on 40 and 50-year-old racist, segregationist, redlining, power trip, DOT culture, the Robert Moses culture there, and correcting that.
Can I say something too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just noticed too about the meetings. There's one going to be held in Cheektowaga January 22nd, and there's one going to be held in February, I believe, at Amherst. And I see the tactic of not the East Side Parkway Coalition are moving these meetings. These are being done by the Department of Transportation. I see a movement, I think, to kind of disinvest the East Side residents from this project. And so what they're doing is taking these meetings outside of Buffalo, think that we're not going to participate. So I implore all those, particularly those who live on the east side of Buffalo, particularly, especially along Humboldt Parkway, to attend these meetings, because number one, we cannot let them to dictate where meetings are going to be held without our participation. So please come to the meeting January 22nd at Cheektowaga Community Center, 3349 Broadway Street in Cheektowaga.
And again, our next East Side Parkways Coalition meeting is on Thursday, January 29th. Terry, you know, you brought up the things that everyone knows that, you know, sometimes go unsaid about the redlining and, you know, the terrible history. I actually have a new theory here, in that the 198 and the 33 are separated as projects by DOT. That means that, in fact, they, by definition, can't consider the full restoration within this project, which they should be doing, of Humboldt Parkway, because Humboldt went from MLK to Delaware. So my line now, as of the last couple of days, is the highway numbering designations of DOT are the new redlining.
Well, you know, the thing is, we recognize, and the DOT has an environmental RFP, request for proposals that involve the connection between the 198 and the 33. We're just advocating for the removal of all of that and let the DOT focus on the high-speed rail, the western terminus of the high-speed transit system from Toronto to New York. Get out of the 40, 50-year-old bad ideas that you did. Move forward on the next 40 or 50-year ideas.
Well, Department of Transportation includes transit, but that's not the way it usually plays out. Terry, we got like 1 minute left. If you'd like, Terry and Betty Jean, any last comments?
Power to the people.
Power to the people. Stay involved, stay educated, and continue to participate.
Thank you for tuning in to Eastside Parkway's Coalition Radio every Saturday at 11:30 here on WUFO.
Peace.